Hello, my name is Mitch, and I draw Blood Force, and today is a little bit special. So, without further ado, let's just get the promo out of the way so that we can talk about Deathmate. So, what is Blood Force? This is Blood Force. Blood Force is a celebration / send-up of 90s extreme comics. It's itself a comic book. It's drawn by me, and also written by me. It's all me. I'm to blame for this. So you may be asking yourself, how do I go about reading Blood Force? And the answer is, you open up the description to this video. In there you'll find a link to my Patreon. Subscribe there. That will give you access to all of the Blood Force pages. It'll also give you access to all the process stuff. I usually include stuff like just pencils lying out there. You'll get all the videos. You'll also get some pre-Blood Force stuff. All this just for $3 American. It's an absolute steal. And of course, the more subscribers we get, the closer we get to the goal of publishing Blood Force. But that's a ways off. First thing we got to do, baby steps, is we need subscribers first. So subscribe today, read some Blood Force comics, help get Blood Force out on those shelves. And this certainly sounded like I had a third thing to say, but I don't. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and guess most of the people who might watch this video already know what Deathmate is. Because most of the people who might watch this video are males over the age of 35. That's just how it goes. In fact, everybody who watches this channel. That's you. That's me. So this won't be as much of a teaching moment. This is just going to be a bit of a recap. Obviously, we all know what Image Comics was in 1993, but Valiant was a bit of a different deal, right? So you think about where comics were at the time that Valiant was founded in 1989. You think about Amazing Spider-Man. You think about Uncanny X-Men. Also, New Mutants. Those are the Todd days and the Rob days and the Mark Silvestri days, with a little bit of Jim Lee sprinkled in there. And so Jim Shooter goes over to Voyager Communications, who are, they're starting out as a comics publisher. They're putting out wrestling stuff and video game comics. And they acquire a couple of properties from Gold Key, which is a defunct comic company. So they acquire Solar, Man of the Atom, they acquire Magnus Robot Fighter, and they acquired Turok, Dinosaur Hunter. And they make up some other guys to kind of go around them. But these Magnus and Solar are going to be kind of the slightly recognizable heroes, I suppose. Like, the thinking is kind of sound in that they're slightly established. There was a period of time where Magnus and Solar were actually kind of popular and were selling around the 100,000 mark in the 70s, I think it was. So, I mean, there is some sort of fan base for these characters, or there was at one point. So why not build an imprint off of that and just kind of flesh out around it? And yeah, they did a pretty good job. There's a whole history to Valiant that is fucking fascinating. I don't know enough of it to spit it off the top of my head. I have watched a video or two on it, though. I'll try and link one. Or not necessarily link one, but put a link in the description. Because, like I said, it's really interesting stuff. But regardless, Jim Shooter gets booted in 1992 because Shooter has a tendency to... Well, he has a reputation for being dictatorial, and I assume, it's a little bit like having a hard-ass coach in sports, where sometimes you need that for the first couple of years, and then you need to get him the fuck out the door so that you can get into somebody who can actually make these people feel good and win games. So in the follow-up, Bob Layton is the editor-in-chief at Valiant, and I don't know if he had the hand on the wheel that Jim Shooter had. I mean, nothing against Bob Layton. Probably not, just because Jim Shooter was such a fucking presence. And from what I understand, the idea for Deathmate came because Steve Mazarski, who was the owner of Valiant and Voyager Communications, all that kind of shit, was buddies with Jim Lee, who had just split off from Marvel with his buddies. And I guess they tossed around the idea of doing an intercompany crossover. And nobody at Valiant, by the sound of it, really wanted to do it. Because one of the things that they'd sort of established, at least, was that they could be reliable. They didn't have the best looking comics. They maybe had the worst looking comics, at least as a whole, just like as a general aesthetic. But those comics came out every month, and the story was pretty good. That was the idea behind Valiant. And Image was, of course, the opposite, where, at least at the beginning, the comics were supposed to look pretty great, and they did not come out reliably. And what story? Ideally, this could have been sort of filling in the gaps on each other. Basically just getting the Valiant guys to write out a crossover and make sure that that everything comes out on time, and then have the Image guys just draw it. They had stables. But it kind of ended up being the worst of both worlds. And just kind of a huge mess. So, let's get right into the prologue for Deathmate. Alright, so we've all... I remember seeing this image before it ever came out and thinking it was just one of the coolest goddamn things going. And actually you're going to get Jim Lee to do the covers as often as humanly possible. Because he's one of the more bankable names that's involved. Not everybody was involved. Eric Larson didn't want anything to do with this. Todd McFarlane didn't want Spawn in it, although Al Simmons does show up in it. And Jim Valentino wasn't involved in it at all. This is just Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, Rob Liefeld, and Will Sportatio, basically. And while that's, those are kind of big names, those are also the least reliable guys at Image. Any one of them, really. If it had been the other three guys, you feel like those books might have come out on time. So what does Deathmate mean? Not much of anything, really. Let's open it up and take a look at the credits. So Deathmate Prologue was produced largely by Valiant, by the looks of it. This is all a Valiant look. All this stuff, all this kind of layout. These colors. Yeah, Joe Chiodo. Oh, this is interesting. So this is written by Bob Layton, who's a decent writer. You see some of the writers who were employed by Valiant at the beginning. It's guys like David Michelini. Jim Shooter's doing a bunch. Like, they really were writer-focused. And Barry Windsor-Smith is doing the penciling. A little bit, anyway. This is a little low intensity for Barry Windsor-Smith, but I know he's not a big fan of Image Comics or Rob Liefeld or Jim Lee. Jim Lee is inking this, though, and then colored by Joe Chiodo, lettered by Mike Heisler. So very kind of interesting start here. And so we're starting out with Solar, and he's confronting, what's her name, Gale. I was not a Valiant reader at the time. I didn't really know what the hell was going on in terms of setting things up. Whenever, so like I'd read the Deathmate Image side issues, and I'd kind of guess at what was happening based on what I knew of the Image characters. Everything else, that's kind of a, maybe they're cool characters. I don't know. I read the Harbinger series, the first trade paperback. That was pretty good. So maybe they're all like that, right? I think they kind of are, actually. They're pretty high quality in terms of the writing. So Solar and Gale are having a discussion about kind of assisted suicide, really. Gale has been made kind of quasi-immortal by Solar, and she's watched her friends die and her relatives and all that kind of thing, and she's kind of sick of still having to be alive. And Solar's like, okay, but like if I let you die, then I'm going to be lonely, and that's bad. And, I don't want to do that. But she does manage to convince him, and he does let her go, and it's kind of end of the world for him, so to speak. This is all very nice looking stuff, actually. This is beautiful. I like this, like, really, I guess she came here just to, like, make a show. That, I'm going to throw myself off the cliff. It's not necessary. Solar can just let her stop living. And that is what he does. But it's symbolic, too, And when Barry Windsor-Smith draws a page, he also partially writes it. He's making up what's happening. And he knows what he's doing a lot of the time. And Solar has sort of an episode where an alternate Solar kind of springs out of his brain. And if you're an image reader, like I was at the time, you're like, that's weird and unexplained. If you're a Valiant reader, this is old news. This is how this Solar came to be. I've read up a little bit about Solar Man of the Atom. It does seem to be worth checking out at some point. I wouldn't mind like delving into the Valiant stuff because it seems like pretty cool stories. It's just every once in a while, like those issues they get a little pricey. Like just looking at some prices on the place I usually order from, I could get the first issue of Solar Man of the Atom for $6 by the looks of it. Issue 2, $3. Issue 3, $22. What? Issue 4, $2.50. And most of them are like $2.50. Issue 7, not so much. $6, then $5, then $50 for issue 9. $9. It's a little tough getting your hands on some of these issues. And that's part of the deal with Valiant. They were as much stock as they were entertainment. They were a huge reason behind the speculator boom, actually. Or at the very least, they were a big part of it. So, I don't know. I'd like to do Valiant at some point. Maybe. But that might be when I'm making more money from this than I am currently. The whole deal behind Solar, and this may be something I cut for time, but we'll just assume that I'm not doing that. So the Solar backstory is that Solar is a dude named Phil. So Phil's a scientist who was at a nuclear plant. This is kind of roughly gleaned from from the little bit I've read. As a kid, Phil was a fan of the Solar comic book, so it gets kind of weirdly meta. And at the power plant, I believe he averts a meltdown. He winds up, pretty much destroyed. It's kind of the Doc Manhattan origin. And kind of keeps himself alive and develops essentially godlike powers. I think it's described as radiation powers, but really it's just like he has the ability to change matter. So he is God. There's some time travel stuff in there. There's stuff where, as a godlike being, he may have gone back in time and engineered the situation so that he would become a godlike being, that kind of thing. But anyway, at some point he tries to go back and stop the event that turns him into Solar, and he accidentally ends up destroying the world by turning the city of his origin into a black hole. Solar number 1 starts when he comes back, I believe, and he believes he's gone back in time. It's actually something more along the lines of he basically reinvented the universe and reinvented it as a place with superheroes, and that's why we have Valiant Comics, from what I can understand. Like I said, I kind of want to read this stuff so I have a better idea. And when he goes back to the city where he became Solar, where he became superpowered, this guy here pops out of his head. And this is like an idealized hero self. And he decides that Phil is a bad dude. And he can't allow himself to be put back in Phil's head. So he has to stay alive and fight evil. Which it kind of means Phil, who's just like a regular dude with godlike powers. So back to this. This is Greaser Solar. It's Solar, only he doesn't have the cowl, and instead he has a leather jacket with the sleeves rolled up. So this is Avengers West Coast Solar. That was a thing I noticed about Avengers West Coast in like 92, 93, when they were trying to figure out how to make their characters look cool. Like every single character, just about at least, got a half jacket with the rolled up sleeves. And it looks so fucking lame. There was a lot of those going around in 92, 93. So, the cool guy Solar is gonna go and so he's basically Solar but free of the grief of having just lost Gale. So that's what happens when you're free of the grief. Is you go get yourself a fucking makeover. I believe it. And he's gonna go explore the multiverse for a world where he can find love that won't eventually get sick of being alive. And that's fair. You know, we're all looking for that kind of love. And he comes across Void. Specifically, Void from Wildcats issue 1, I guess. We all remember this as the bit where Void had dreams of confronting the gnome when he got the orb. And the gnome used the orb on her and she exploded. And it was done a bit more flashily than this. Again, some of this is just Barry Windsor Smith is too good to ever totally feel like he's phoning it in. But stuff like this, I don't know. Maybe he couldn't quite compute this particular sequence. I'm not for sure. But here it's interpreted more that she has shattered reality into possible, multiverse shit. And so that obviously that would get his attention, get him to come over, getting, his big reality altering shit. In the normal course of things, I suppose she would have put herself back together, gone back into the time stream, and whatever. If that was a better written book, selected the proper time stream and then maybe forgotten, something like that. Who knows? But because Solar is close and he's also an energy or reality manipulating being, they can sense each other's presence and they actually develop some sort of telepathy very quickly, and they fall in love immediately, which doesn't seem particularly practical, but I mean, when you're talking about telepathy, I suppose it is kind of possible to just like read somebody immediately and go, and I don't know. If you like what you see, go, well, damn, yes. All of that, please. Thank you. Or just, knowing somebody that much, right? And this is really kind of speeding up. You don't really need an extended romance scene because this is all just inciting event stuff anyway. And, it's Void of the Wildcats. Like, how much story are we devoting to Void of the Wildcats? Probably not that much. This is a little bit more interesting, though. It feels like Barry Windsor Smith liked this page a bit more, these pages. Anyway, so they fall in love, they smooch it up, and their realities mingling, or it's either their realities mingling. They don't get too specific on what exactly is the cause, at least not in the prologue. My interpretation is it's either matter from two different universes combining, causes a chain reaction which unravels reality. That could be. Or it's two impossibly powerful beings sort of intermingling, again, caused a chain reaction. Also possible, I suppose. We'll have to read more of Deathmate to find out. I'm sure it will be elaborated on, though. These people have my trust, absolutely. And then we're going to get a few ads, quite a few actually. Get the classic Youngblood Bloodshot. Bloodshot did not turn into much of anything in Deathmate Red, from what I recall. He really got hyped up, amped up though. Harbinger number 25 with Sting versus Harada. I never got that far. I read to issue 4 or 5. Like I said, I thought it was cool. Bloodshot, who looked awesome on the cover of #1 when Barry Windsor-Smith drew the cover, and they had the Kick-Ass Chromium cover. And then the rest of the time he looked like this, and everyone stopped giving a damn real quick. And Shadow Man, and that's not a bad version of Steven Tyler, actually. I never really knew what Shadow Man's deal was. Apparently he has voodoo powers, which is kind of sick. And Dr. Mirage. I don't know anything about Dr. Mirage. Decent character name, though. And we get some Wildcats cards here, by the looks of it, including a Dale Keown, whatever his name was. Hellspot. I got it. Who's drawing on this thing? Adam Hughes, Dale Keown, Sam Keith, Jay Lee, Mark Silvestri, and many more. Many more of the same tier, I'm sure. But not Brett Booth, or J. Scott Campbell, or Brandon Peterson, etc. Anyway, now we're on to Deathmate Part 2 of the prologue, which is basically they let Rob draw what a combined universe would look like, which is not very different from the original universes, because Rob doesn't have that kind of imagination. But yeah, this is kind of right up Rob's alley. So he's gonna put a little bit of effort into this, where you get dude standing, dude from the other universe is standing, all the dudes together standing. Repeat. And change the costumes a little bit, such as giving Shadow Man a ponytail, giving Shaft a ponytail. We didn't give Die Hard a ponytail, but we really thought about it. Bob Layton's writing this, writing in quotations. There's not a whole lot going on. He doesn't know how to script this. Rob gave him pages and he went, oh, fuck. So I want to wake up. This is Bob Layton speaking directly to the audience. Rob Liefeld, penciler. Bob Layton with Danny Meeky, Dan Panosian, inkers. Which is part of the problem with Deathmate. And we'll elaborate a bit more on that when we get to Deathmate Red. Yep, same again. Show one side, show the other side, show the two combined. This is hardcore, I believe. And we get Harbinger and Brigade into Harbrigade. Oh yeah, and this is Hardcats. The whole thing is an acronym. This is not Young Bloodshot, although I wish it was. And we get, is that Turok? I guess so, eh? With Ripclaw, Warblade, and Exo. That's an interesting team. And Spartan with Combat. And one of the hardcore chicks, I don't know who that is. I believe that's Gilad, the Eternal Warrior, and Bedrock. And then Abraham Lincoln and Solar, which is the ultimate team up, really. But again, we're letting Rob just draw dudes standing together in Rob poses. And then we get to actual kind of story stuff. And so this is the Geomancer. It is actually, okay, I thought it might be Jeff. It is Jeff. So Jeff wakes up, Jeff the Geomancer. It was important that it be alliterative. Wakes up and everything feels wrong. And as a Geomancer, he would know. So he goes and kind of connects with the Earth, I suppose, and goes, this is not my world. Which is good. You kind of need that outsider character to kind of propel the action, right? Otherwise, nobody would try to change anything. And he gets confronted by the Berserkers, or at least the three that Rob felt like including. I don't really blame him. Like, Battle Axe is not great at all. I don't remember what the other girl was. The one who's not Siren, definitely. How does this look? It doesn't really hold up to scrutiny too well. At a glance, not too bad. This is also going to be Bob Layton inking, though, so I don't know how much of this is Bob Layton drawing it. maybe a little bit. And so Prophet shows up to confront the Berserkers and punches Wildmane, punches Gray, and throws Gray at Cross. Because he's what happens when you multiply Captain America by Ultimate Warrior. And then they skip away. Skip to infinity. And they're both aware that something pretty bad is going on, and someone's gonna have to do something about it, and it's probably them. And I believe Union and his glowing dildo of doom also play into that somehow. I think I'm gonna do a Union series at some point. I have all the issues of the first season now, where Mark Silvestri was drawing them, and he absolutely should not have been. Youngblood Strike File, got that too. Brigade, got that too. All of these could happen at some point. And Deathmate Black, we will be doing that one sooner than the other ones. Is this Deathmate Yellow or Deathmate Blue? I feel like this might be blue, actually. Oh no, it's yellow. So that's the one we're going to do next. It is interesting trying to figure out what the order might be. And that's another thing with the Deathmate series, is the order. Because these aren't numbered. There's Deathmate Prologue, yellow, black, blue, and red, and then the epilogue. That's the order I'm going to be doing them in anyway. And the reasoning for that was that Bob Layton did not trust the Image guys to get their shit done on time. So if they had to be done sequentially, that would have fucked everything up, because Valiant would have gotten their stuff done on time, and then they would have been waiting around for the Image guys to put their stuff in. And you know what? He was absolutely right. So he figured if they were self-contained, and Valiant did their 2 books, and Image did their 2 books, then the Valiant fans could just buy the Valiant books. And they get stories that were pretty much complete on their own. And then they could just wait around for Image to finish the epilogue eventually, and it would all be good. And yeah, I think that actually ended up being the right way to go. So, this is going to wrap it up for the prologue anyway. We'll be back very shortly with Deathmate Yellow, I think. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notifications, so you know when Deathmate Yellow is coming. We're all waiting for Deathmate Yellow, right? Certainly not Deathmate Black. Maybe Deathmate Blue. And then you can go over to my Twitter and follow me there at Team Blood Force. More importantly, go to my Patreon and subscribe there. That's where all the blood stuff... The blood stuff? That's where all the Blood Force pages go. As well as finished videos as soon as they get done. So, usually a week or so in advance. Maybe even more with stuff like this. Because this is 6 issues worth that I'm going to try and get done fairly quickly. Yeah, no, you get all that for just $3 a month American. It is worth it. And yeah, thanks again. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.